right. Very good evening, everyone. I'm Asmita, Center Head at Jamshedpur Management Association, and I welcome you all on behalf of JMA. JMA has started this brand new talk series celebrating the young and successful entrepreneurs of India and a Young Achievers series. Today, we have two sisters as our guests. They are Miss Nikita and Nishita Baliar Singh. I'll just give a brief introduction of theirs. Miss Nikita and Nishita are the Odisha's first Forbes International Under 30 honorees. Twins Nikita and Nishita are the founders of an eco-friendly battery tech company, Nexus Power. The duo strives to build a sustainable and greener planet. The startup is building lithium-free biodegradable electric vehicle batteries from crop residues. Nexus has been a recipient of multiple awards since its inception in 2019. The girls have featured in Forbes 30 Under 30, Entrepreneur Magazine's Shepreneur Woman to Watch, Vogue India's Women at Workplace Special Edition, MG Motors and the Better Tech India's Changemaker Season 3, and PMI's Global Future 50, to name a few. The pair has also been felicitated by the Governor of Odisha for their innovative work and contribution towards the startup ecosystem in the state. On the education front, Nishita and Nikita completed their bachelor's degree in business management from the prestigious Xavier's Institute of Management, Bhubaneswar. Following this, Nikita went to pursue masters in media and mass communication from XIM, and Nishita opted to pursue chartered accountancy. The twin girls have also completed master's certification programs in under various topics. They inspire people from multiple walks of life through their journey and talk sessions in TEDx events, different seminars and webinars across the world. Stories about their journey have been published in numerous leading global media houses in both print and digital medium. Besides their entrepreneurial interests, Nishita is a photographer and an artist, while Nikita is a creative writer and a filmmaker. Sometimes that resides in both of them is being musicians, sport enthusiasts, adventure freaks, and brave horse riders. They believe entrepreneurship is not only about we doing the physically we doing the work physically. It is about the emotional strength the founders possess. It is about having the same enthusiasm throughout and about believing in yourself and your team. And most importantly, it is a journey and in which has no particular destination. With this, I would like to welcome both our speakers of today.
I'll call you back.
Welcome Nishita and welcome Nikita.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for that brief intro.
Thank you so much. So we are conducting the session in an interview mode, and so participants are requested to post their questions in the chat box. Before we go to the participants or audience questions, I'll be asking a few questions of myself. So I think we shall begin with the same. So yeah, so the first question is to both of you. The very first and basic question that comes to anybody's mind is, with a management degree from a prestigious institute like XIM, getting a fancy job with a good, huge fat package would have been a piece of cake. So what was that trigger that prompted you to embark on this journey of Nexus Power?
Uh, well, first of all, good evening, everybody, and thank you so much for having us here. Um, I think it was never a part of our bucket list that we wanted to get into a job or have a placement. I remember I didn't even sit for the placement drive. I had clearly denied that I don't want to sit for the interviews. I don't want to be a part of the entire placement thing. Because I believe it was, we always wanted to be entrepreneurs ever since we were children. I think we were 11 or 12 years old when this entire concept was very fascinating for us. So that is when we decided that we want to take up this as a career option for us. And I think ever since then, we've never tried to see what it is like to have a job and to work under some reputed company or some, as people say, the big three, big four consulting companies and all that. That has never been a part of the bucket list. And I think that is why there was no particular trigger that happened before we just started. our own company. I think we always wanted to do this, and that has been with us since we were children. So there was no eureka moment or no turning point that said that we shouldn't be opting for a job and let's start our company. We had never considered the option of doing a job always in our life.
Nishita, what was your trigger?
Well, honestly, it's not that. Like Nikita also mentioned that we never really opted for the placement, something that we never really even thought about that we wanted to do. So ever since school, it was pretty much in the mind. We've been groomed that way. We've grown up that way. We've understood entrepreneurship better. We belong to business families. Our parents have had business, so we've seen that side of work better than looking at a very job-oriented family space. So I think that's the initial trigger comes from that space only, where we've actually seen this background of a very business family orientation. So sometimes you grow up with that kind of atmosphere, and it sometimes that's what you incline towards, because then it gets difficult to look at the other side of the story. So I think it's not that we really wanted. I mean, opting for a job was better or something like that. I believe it's purely depends on what you like and what really suits you. So probably that's how things got for me. And in terms of from the very beginning, ever since I did my degree courses at XIM, went on to study the course, understand everything, the entire a lot of friends around you, the placements and all discussions, so that never really interested me. So I don't think there was ever an inclination towards looking for a fancy job and then working for somebody, working for a big company or whatever. I think the inclination was always towards building a company, building something which would definitely solve problems for people, for profitably, definitely.
Great, great. So, how did this biodegradable batteries come in picture? Or then how? Coming to the next question, what is Nexus Power exactly? So, if you could share a presentation or take our audience through the concept behind the Nexus Power, that would be helpful.
Right. So not like there's something very special in the deck or there's something different. It's pretty much in if I talk to you in a nutshell of what Nexus Power is. So we are actually building a biodegradable rapid charging electric vehicle battery, which is out of agricultural waste, typically the crop residue, which normally the farmers would burn, and instead of we letting them burn it, we typically procure that residue and then extract our material and then build the battery. So in a very simple concept, this is what we're doing, and that's how the batteries are being built. So now, in terms of the IP and the kind of intellectual property structure we hold, I mean, again, I'm not even sure if it really belongs to this forum, but yeah, if you want to go down to understand the typical chemistry of what we do, it's a graphite protein based combination. It's a composite material with a ionic salt electrolyte. A normal battery cell has three elements: the anode, cathode, and the electrolyte, and that's what comes together to make a battery cell. And plenty of such cells in a parallel and series combination make your battery pack. So typically, that's exactly what we're working on, and we are working on the cell level chemistry. So which actually comes from the crop residue, and the entire cycle then continues. So yeah, that's what Nexus Power is all about. But I mean, if I were to give you exactly in a nutshell, I mean, in one sentence, we build batteries for EVs, which are biodegradable and they are fast charging out of agricultural waste. Simple.
Right. Again, why batteries? Why biodegradable batteries? What was the problem that you identified in the market or in India?
We actually began with making electric vehicles. The idea was not to start with batteries. We initially wanted to make electric vehicles, made in India electric vehicles for the Indian crowd, Indian market. And I think we also began doing a lot of research and work in that domain. But eventually we realized that people are not buying electric vehicles as much as people are willing to make them. So there were plenty of companies who were making electric vehicles, especially two-wheelers, back in even 2016, 2017. And still, the market was not really very popular. It was not in demand. There were plenty of manufacturers, but people were not buying them. So I think that was a place where we thought that there are some concerns. There is some problem. The reason why people are not actually wanting to buy electric vehicles, and that's how we started to understand these problems. And a lot of people told us that the batteries take too long to charge, the vehicles are very expensive, it doesn't give us the amount of distance that we can travel with if we have a petrol or a diesel vehicle. So that's where we realized that probably to have electric vehicles being more accepted in the society, you really have to work on these problems. And if you try and kind of focus on each of this problem individually, you would realize that most of it is centered around the battery of the vehicle and not the vehicle itself. So if the battery takes too long or it doesn't give you a desired range, everything is being powered by the battery. In fact, the price of the vehicle is also a little expensive because lithium is not readily available in India and we don't manufacture the batteries, we just assemble them. So this increases the price factor also. So because battery could address so many of these concerns, we decided to start working on the battery technology and keep the vehicles aside for the time being. So that is how we actually got into looking at battery technology and trying to understand how we can make better and more innovative batteries which can solve these problems that normal people face in day-to-day activities. Uh, and that's how probably that was a starting point when we started reading about it online. We did find a couple of more companies trying to work in the battery technology. And that is how we stumbled upon this idea of making batteries out of proteins. And then I think we tried to make a few initial prototypes, tried to test the entire idea and concept of peptide batteries. And because it really worked for us, we thought that will be the path that we want to choose. And in parallel space, actually, when we were discussing about battery technology, we also got to know about the pollution that the northern Indian plains have because of the crop residue that is burnt in winters. So I think it was just a very vague idea that we thought that why not try and help do something in that area as well, try and handle some air pollution. So we just, I think, out of one random discussion, we decided that because we have to make our batteries out of proteins, which is a natural element, and most of these crops that are burnt do have a lot of proteins in them. So why don't we just procure the residue and extract our proteins from there? So I think that is how this entire cycle was complete, and that is how Nexus was born, the way it is today.
Great, that is truly inspiring. So I am trying to direct my questions specifically, but you both have logged in with Nishita's name, so I'm trying to figure out who's who.
Yeah, actually, I'm trying to change that, but I'm not able to do it. So I'm Nikita, but I'm just not able to change edit the name there. So, anyways, you can distinguish. Yellow shirt is Nishita, pink shirt is me, Nikita.
Sure,
Right.
sure.
If you want, you can actually log out and log in again with your change in the
I
name.
know,
That is possible.
that much I think I'll be able to make out. That's
Okay.
okay.
All right then.
Yeah. So, Nishita, my question is for Nishita now.
Mhm.
Being from a non-technical background, actually, you both are from non-technical background. How did you equip yourself? Because this is a very hardcore technical business concept. So, how did you equip yourself?
So yeah, I mean, we definitely started off with little less knowledge about the sector, and my passion, my interest always lied in this space. I mean, I was always very interested, and my I always saw my future with the machines and automotives and cars, electric vehicles, whatever that, so on and so forth. And this has been since childhood. So my interests have always been there, but somehow college happened, school happened. It was not very technical as a background, and then eventually, your calling, your pull gets you back to what actually belongs to you. So that's how eventually the technology space, the batteries happened, and then that was more fascinating, and because it was my calling. So I have acquired skills in the due course of times from my school, all through my college, apart from what we were doing academically. But yeah, I mean, when we started off, of course, there were a lot of more technical aspects to it, which had to be understood, had to be seen to, had to be worked upon. So I took time to understand most of the study, to understand concepts. We took up, like, in fact, me and Nikita, both of us, we took up separate master certification courses, almost a year-long courses, in purely in the technological space. So me and Nikita, where Nikita focused more on the nanotechnology, which is very core to the battery chemistry structure that we're building, and I focus more on the electronic side, where I focus and took up my courses in electric vehicle and design of some mechatronic systems and semiconductors and renewable energies and battery thermal management systems. So we wanted to make sure that we have an understanding of the entire stuff before we completely jump into it. So not like we hadn't started. We did start off in Nexus, eventually acquired these skills as well. So what I can say personally is from where I started off as an entrepreneur with the concept, today I am way more equipped than what I might have been about 1.5, 2 years ago.
Right. So upskilling as you go is very important, I think.
It is, it is. I mean, it's very important to keep learning new skills. That really keeps building you as an individual. And it's not only about the technology or the technical side; it is also on the management side. As you keep growing, the taxation laws keep changing, accounting policies keep changing. Your lean methods, operation methods, critical path methods. A lot of things keep coming in. A lot of more skills that you can acquire over the time. So it's not limited to what you do in your academic life, and then it's important that you keep acquiring these skills with time. Whatever you do in life, whether it's technical, whether it's managerial, or whatever. So it's important. I think it really builds you as an individual.
Right, right. Great. Nikita, nowadays there are so many startups budding. Like we have a Shark Tank program coming on the television for India specifically now. But many times the young minds come up with brilliant, innovative ideas, but they not always turn into successful business models. So, what were the hurdles that you faced in this journey while you were scaling up, and how did you overcome them?
See, honestly, I wouldn't say we really faced too many hurdles because one of the biggest things of starting up as an entrepreneur is to have support from everybody else, your family and your friends, and that we had in plenty, honestly. Even our teachers and our mentors and everybody in school, in college, they were always there supporting our ideas. So it was not like a roadblock or a hurdle that we had, but challenges are everywhere. If you look at to start up with, you always need some amount of finances. Maybe you need a proper plan. You need to document what you're doing. So I think the first challenge that we faced was to understand the technicalities of what we were getting into, because we are not really from the science field, and to grasp all of those nuances and those technical terms and those typical reactions and chemical chemistry of batteries and all that. I think that was the first challenge that we had, that we equip ourselves first, only then can we have our team believe in the entire idea as well. So, and we kind of studied a lot. We've read so many research papers, we've read so many books on science and technology. In fact, internet has been of great help to us all through our journey. So we did a lot of reading, and as far as finances are concerned, yes, they do become a little challenge, but that comes in your path eventually as you grow. So to start, I don't think you need a lot of finances, because we as entrepreneurs, we really started as a in a zero capital model, to be very honest. Because we were doing things with we were trying to experiment with things that were available at home, and uh, elements that we could find at a very cheap price, or things that we could sometimes, like the research papers have to be purchased. So a lot of these scientific papers are not available for free. So what we used to do is we used to access these journals through our institute mail IDs. Normally institutes have subscriptions, so it gets easier to browse through these research papers. So I think that's how it is. You just have to find out ways of finding a particular path to start your own venture, or to get to doing something that you really like. But what I certainly believe is the curiosity has to be there for anybody who wants to start their own venture. Because as kids, we normally tend to be very curious. We want to know what happens if we do something or the other. But as we grow up, we lose this entire curiosity as individuals to try and experiment with our ideas. So I think it's very vital to keep experimenting with ideas. Unless you try it, you will not realize whether it is successful or not. So that's how it is, and challenges are always there. But I think if nature throws challenges at us, it also gives us ways to handle it or deal with it. So that's how it is. I think it's available around. We just have to be very observant.
Right. So, as you mentioned, you started with a zero capital. My next question was directed towards that itself. That capital is at some point it becomes very important. So how do you find your investors? How do you raise funds for a startup like this?
I think this is one of the most tricky parts of being an entrepreneur, and the fact that you got to sell yourself and sell your company to somebody who should be interested to put money into it. Typically, when you talk about the investors, but I mean, for Nexus Power specifically, where the journey is slightly different from any tech-enabled company or somebody who's already making revenues. And the very reason is because a company which already has a product ready and with some initial traction, specifically whether if it's a technology enabled company in terms of an app or ITES enabled service, for them the kind of market infrastructure and the structure, the market that we have in India right now in terms of the investor perspective and the D2C boom in India, it's easier for a very tech enabled ITES kind of a company to show growth and then have the entire investor and fundraising process get smoother. But for companies typically like Nexus Power, like us, and plenty of them more who are still in the R&D, who are building prototypes, who still don't have the final product, it tends to get difficult. It is not that investors would really flock around you and they would really want to invest in you because you are building something which in the next 5 years would be a game-changing product. Sometimes you need conviction, and for in terms of which kind of investor might be interested, with my experience so far and what I have seen all this while, somebody who is investing small amounts and is looking for quick returns is not an investor who would really want to look at a company which might not have revenues for the next 3-4 years. So typically, somebody who would be interested for Nexus Power would typically be more called as a ultra HNI or an HNI. So by HNI we mean high net worth individual investor. So what happens is when you have high net worth investors, HNIs, and ultra high net worth investors, the ultra HNIs. So for them, they sometimes take and the approach basically for them, if they have an approach where they are ready to have their money put into something, not giving them any returns for the next 5-6 years, that's a particular kind of investor who would be interested to invest in R&D based startups and pre-revenue companies just still building their final products. And that's typically the same story for Nexus as well. So for us to have investors and for these VCs or micro VC investors to be interested in us, I think this is the typical genre who are first interested in this domain, who understand the huge potential maybe later, and they understand that it can create an impact, and they're comfortably fine with the fact that for the next 5 years maybe they might not have revenues and they might not be returns. And it really gets challenging to find investors like that because the entire ecosystem in India specifically is very D2C driven, which really has ready products in the market with some revenue. So growth there is faster. And when we talk about investments and raising capital, it is typically for a growth perspective. When we are raising capital, we are actually looking at a growth. We're growing the company, building the product, trying to get massive growth probably through revenues or profits for the company. And that typically happens faster for the D2C brands as well as these ITES services, and little less for product driven startups, specifically technology driven product startups who are still in the R&D phase. So that gets it's definitely dicey, but yes, I mean we have seen a lot of such companies gaining their investments, proving their product market fit, and then that's where the growth story begins. So it's not like it's impossible, but yeah, it's slightly tricky. It gets challenging at times.
Okay, thank you for that. Nikita, you mentioned that in today's day and age, Google is the guru. So, but internet is very addictive in terms of some bad things you can say, or the addictive things. Spending our time on reels and the things that are not very useful for us. So, how do you make the most out of internet? What is your mantra for it? How did you make it happen for yourself?
I guess I was just very focused on the fact that if I am studying or if I'm trying to read about the batteries and battery technology, then that's what I'm doing. But otherwise, if I'm taking a break, then maybe I'm watching a film or two or I'm doing something else. So it's not that I don't indulge into social media or I don't spend my time on reels and or Facebook videos. I think our parents will be pretty much the proof that we spend a lot of time on the phone, on the laptops. But it is just about dedicating a particular time slot, probably. That if right now I have to read and study about science and technology, about peptide batteries, and about all other opportunities that we can have in the market, then that's what we are doing, and we're just focusing on that. And then I think if you spend about 2.5 hours or 3 hours at a stretch reading and studying about these things on the internet, then I think everybody deserves another 2 3 hours of a break to say watch a film or something. So I mean, typically, I am a film buff. I love watching a lot of movies. So I make sure that if I'm spending 3.5, 4 hours on reading and studying about my concept, about my enterprise, then I also spend equally 3.5, 4 hours watching films and building my creative ability. It's just about dedicating a particular time slot and kind of following that schedule that you've made for yourself.
Right. So the self-discipline plays a big role here, I think.
Yeah, it does, but I don't think we are also very self-disciplined at the moment, or we've kind of mastered that art or something. So we do get distracted quite a lot, and I think that happens with everybody. Probably there is no matrix to kind of be very self-disciplined, or help you not to get distracted. But yeah, at times, if there are things that you really love doing and things that you're passionate about, you always make time for that. That's how it is.
Right. Nishita, as Nikita mentioned, passion. I would like to ask you, how much of the role passion plays in being a successful entrepreneur or making your business successful?
Yeah, I think it's one of the major aspects of what builds you as an entrepreneur. Of course, there are other aspects also, which includes hard work, dedication. These are pretty common words that we keep hearing, but I think passion really drives you to for anything that you want to start. It's your passion that actually pulls you towards it. I mean, whether it be something that is more on the creative side, which is maybe art, sketching, or craft, something, maybe photography, maybe just something which is writing or something like that. So maybe either it's on the creative side or on the technical side. So for a person at a very young age, somebody who aims to be a designer, somebody who aims to be an automobile, somebody is an automobile designer, somebody aims to be a doctor, an engineer, somebody even aims to be a CA. So I think that all of those ambitions actually come from what your interests tell you and what shouts from within you, which is typically what we call a passion. So I think passion is very, very important, and it's a huge driving factor for anything you do in life. Not It's not about being successful or not, or failing and experiencing more challenges. It's typically about the entire space of how you build your path. So for your path to start, I think the passion really counts. It's your interests and your passion that certainly tells you from within which is the path you got to take, and then eventually your hard work, your dedication, strategizing, talent, and structuring power, then builds you, and that's what eventually gives you the amount of success, whichever way you define success for yourself. For me, I think starting point should be your passion, your interest. That really guides you to what you want to start with.
Right. So the next question is, you both mentioned that since childhood, this has been owning a business or maybe getting into entrepreneurship has been there in you. So, what were your early inventions? What were the early ideas that were scrapped and then maybe Nexus was a success?
It's not that early ideas were scrapped or eventually Nexus was success. So it's not that the others might not have been a success. The fact is, we are known for Nexus today, but we began with smaller, very very small ventures, which technically were out of just general awareness. So typically there was a digital media boom earlier, and because digital media boom, we looked into digital marketing and structuring, a lot of structuring around that. There was IT boom with apps and websites, basically a technology boom. So we've done smaller ventures in terms of typical business ventures in very mainstream IT, digital marketing, digital media, all of that. But if I talk about early experiments in school and just for fun and something which really something like we've often heard people say that whatever I get I try and open it. So as a person I have been very fascinated about machines. So yes, if I got a chance, I really tried holding a screwdriver and opening up the entire, say, a cabinet or a TV or a fridge, whatever, to just understand the mechanism inside it. And we've done plenty of projects in school, typically more technology-based projects, which include automated letter alarm systems and some water level controller systems. So they are simple school science projects which really out of interest, definitely, and yeah, I mean, like every school kid would do, some people really have the interest of opening up instruments, opening up mobile phones, just kind of an old iPhone which is kind of spoiled and not being used anymore. The battery slightly swollen. Bring the battery out, unwrap the battery, just open the battery components. So we've done that. We've all done that. So that's I think one of those typical, very early signs of that technical, creative entrepreneur in me.
Truly, truly. In Marathi, we have a saying, "बाळाचे पाय पाण्यात असतात." So it says that when you are a child, your activities or your actions tend to tell what you are going to do in future. So moving ahead, as I read in your introduction also, there is a quote that I read on internet that is mentioned by you both. So you believe in entrepreneurship is about emotional strength and having the same enthusiasm throughout, believing in yourself and your team. So how do you keep yourself and your team motivated? The consistency, how do you maintain that consistency every day?
I think for us as individuals, a lot of these awards and recognitions that came our way gave us the motivation to keep going. And I think the team is equally very excited and delighted when the company receives an award or a recognition or an honor from any of the popular media houses and management associations. So that is one very important motivation that actually drives the entire work that we do. But most importantly, I believe R&D and battery technology is something that there is no external force that gives you the motivation. Every day when you go down to your labs and you are doing some research and you achieve smaller milestones, or maybe there's a small bit of development in what you're trying to do, I think every piece of those developments is what is the motivation for people to keep going ahead. So there's one thing that we do emphasize is that if there is no difference, if you're not able to succeed in repeated research, then that doesn't mean that you lose your heart and you don't keep trying, or you don't try to tamper something else and change something and try something else. So I think that has really worked for us, that we make sure as we really believe that emotional strength is very important. So with emotional strength, we actually mean that your emotions graph has to be very linear. You cannot be too happy in your highs and you cannot be too depressed in your lows. It just has to be very stable so that it helps you grow, progress and go ahead. And most of our team members have the similar mindset, which we are really grateful for, having a team that shares a common mindset. And apart from that, as I said, a little bit of a change in the research and development, a little bit of achievements, they are really huge levels of motivation when it comes to a company which is heavily driven on the R&D that we are doing. So I think even if we end up reading one research paper on proteins and it gives us some new hints, I think that itself charges all of us to immediately run to the labs and start trying that out physically if it works or not for us. So everything that we do around us is our motivation to keep going, and we don't really have to have a lot of external factors or those typical motivational quotes or motivational activities. They're generally not required because we are in itself too much into these high adrenaline level jobs, that everything that changes in our work is our motivating factor. So that's how it has been working so far.
Right. Oh, good self-motivated team it is, I think. So, talking about the team, can you tell us more about your team? How many people are there with you, and how did you get them? How did they join you? How did you get your team together?
So, it was important for us to build a team which understands the fact that not too many things are going to happen every day. So we are building a product, and we're going to go slow, and a lot of experiments will happen around the similar thing for a long stretch of time. If you're working on just the electrodes, so you will be working on one particular material for a long, long time. So it was very important for us to build a team which understands this side of the story, that there's not too many changes and not too many exciting things happening every day. So as of now, we have a small team. It's a small 15-member team. It includes R&D and management guys who are together, and we're working towards building Nexus Power to where it has reached today and where we want to take it. And in terms of how we really found them, we've actually it's we've been very fortunate, honestly. We'd opened applications, we got plenty of applications. It's a very normal HR process that is followed, but what we really emphasized on is continuously discussing with them before we actually have them on board. Typically, the ones on the R&D side, so we really spend time understanding them, understanding their research. So we have doctoral scholars also, who've done their PhDs, who have had 7+ years of experience and research experience, typically in the batteries. So for we really spend time in understanding their research, their point of view, how their research can contribute to us, how we can collaborate together, whether we're on the same page or not, and that's how we eventually build the team. So people with us have the ones who join Nexus Power, who are working with us, are typically the ones who liked what Nexus Power is doing, what we've been discussing about, what we are building, and they understand the fact that for the next 6-7 years they're going to keep doing the same thing. They are crazy research geeks. They have done their doctoral research 7 years. They spent 7-8 years doing that. So it's a very beautiful mix that we have. They understand that they have to focus on research. They understand that it's going to take time, and they've spent pretty much a lot of time in doing their PhD research, so they typically understand the entire sector of how R&D works. And at the same time, they like the concept of how Nexus Power is building a biodegradable battery, and they really want to contribute to it. So it's more like a team which feels that they're a part of Nexus Power than being motivated and continuously told that you belong to Nexus Power. The belongingness is more from their end. So that's the team structure that we have, and we are very fortunate, honestly, have a team which really belongs to Nexus Power, and their feelings and their belongingness is pretty much natural towards the company.
It's great that you've been able to build that, and then the sense of belonging. That indeed is very important. So, how is Nexus Power placed in market at present, and how are you planning to take it to the next level? I think Nikita can shed a light on that.
Yeah, probably. Uh, so Nexus Power in the market currently, we are into internal tests and licensing and certifications, which is necessary before we actually commercially launch the product. And currently, we are also doing small trials with OEMs with two-wheeler electric vehicles and three-wheeler electric vehicles, and also four-wheeler golf carts. So we are doing these internal tests to validate the battery and the battery chemistry. And at the same time, we are also continuing with the research and development, which practically will go on, I think, forever, because R&D companies basically what we do is R&D. So we are still continuing with R&D on one side, and we're also testing our different prototypes in multiple of these vehicles at the moment. And to look at our timelines, I think we aim at commercially launching these batteries, at least announcing the launch of these batteries, maybe say in the next 12 to 15 months, or say 18 months from now, so that at least the pilots and everything is complete, and we get done with the licensing and certification as well. So that is what the plan is. But I'm sure we all know the COVID scenario, and you can't really predict when there is a lockdown or when you have to stop your operations. So barring those hindrances, I think we are going as per our timelines, and we are good to go to announce a commercial launch in the next 12 to 18 months, and we really hope that we stick to it. So apart from that, I think to go globally, we want to actually have this brand selling globally, and we want to tie up with the biggest of EV manufacturers, and that's what the plan is for now. And let's see how things unfold for us.
Right. All the very best for the launch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, next question is again for both. Being the co-founders and more importantly, siblings, what are your qualities that complement each other and make it work?
Uh, uh, See, honestly, I think me and Nikita, we really complement each other very well in terms of skills and how we look at things. I mean, in terms of for one particular thing, I have a different take for it. Nikita will definitely have a different kind of perspective to the same thing that we see together. And in terms of personality traits, I think Nikita is a visionary, and that really helps us build the big picture. While I am a strategist, so in terms of being a strategist with the personality traits, I think I really make sure that I build those smaller channels in order to reach that vision that Nikita creates. So that's how we complement each other, and that's I think it's a beautiful combination for us. And as siblings, I think we tend to understand each other more, typically more than anybody else would. And in fact, being twins and being siblings is even better because you've been together right from birth until now, and definitely
Natural
for a long, long
instincts
time
must be there.
together. So sometimes you don't even need to speak, and the other person understands body language and gestures as to what is expected from the other person. So that's the entire chemistry that me and Nikita share, and I think it's very compatible, and it's really nice to work with Nikita. The kind of compatibility we share and the kind of understanding that Nikita brings in, I think is pretty good. Obviously, topped up with the entire visionary trait that she has.
And
Great.
honestly, on a lighter note, I think since Nishada said, being twins is altogether a different thing. Being siblings is one thing, but being twins is it's like you have a best friend for life ever since you've been born. And so we've been together since school. I mean, we've been in the same sections, and we've had the same teachers, the same assignments all through. So practically, I have not really worked very hard on my assignments in school. So what we used to do is Nishita used to, do the entire assignment, and we would just print two copies of it with two different cover pages, and that would be submitted as our assignments. So I've been this lazier twin since we've been into school and been into work. So to have her, continue that even in the work phase of life, where you don't really have to do a lot of documentation work and your twin is there to handle anything and everything that might go wrong, it actually just gets easier and more comfortable in life. So even now I think we follow the same trend, so I don't do a lot of documentation work or as far as a lot of the work in the company is concerned. So everything actually I just push it on to her ki, "Chal, if you are there you do it because you have been doing it ever since." So I mean, I don't know, I sometimes I sit down to wonder if I wouldn't have been the co-founder with Nishita in the company, I wonder what I would have ended up doing practically.
Wow, the chemistry is wonderful. So, moving ahead, can you share your most memorable experiences in this journey? It can be rewarding, it can be tough. What was the most memorable event? So, Nishita, maybe
Well,
can start.
yeah, sure. So, most memorable event, I think. So one of the most cherished will always be being, I mean, getting that mail and getting up early morning to reading the mail that you've made it to the Forbes under 30 class of 2021, both India and Asia. So I think that's one of the most cherished memories that I would have. When you recognize my efforts and by such reputed lists. And in fact, a couple of more as well. I think there have been a couple of fun moments also. Typically, the entire MG Changemakers list had a full episode that was short about Nexus Power and what the journey and what we've been doing. So for me, shooting and stuff, was a very fresh first time experience. So you tend to sometimes enjoy it, sometimes really get pissed off because a lot of other work is getting hampered. But so these are these smaller cherished moments that I have. I think besides this, we've been fortunate to be have been felicitated by the governor. We've had interactions with the CM of Odisha, Honorable Chief Minister Shri Naveen Patnaik. So I think these are smaller moments in the journey that have been really we've been cherishing. And on the company front and typically with the product, I think one of the most memorable for me will actually be at that moment during the lockdown when me and Nikita just picked up everything available at home related to our project definitely, and got down to just build that battery, that raw form of the cell, assemble those things together and actually see it working. You literally charge it, discharge it, add load onto it, add multiple lights, and charge that battery, check that battery. It really runs. It gives you a considerable charging time, discharge time, considerable load bearing capacity and running time. So those moments really have built this confidence in me, and we've been working on the battery ever since. That was the promising sparkling element for us. So I think they were one of the most memorable and cherished moments for me so far.
Plenty of them for Nishita, I believe. But yeah, I mean, apart from all this, that surely quite memorable and cherishable for me as well. But I think we got a feature in Vogue India magazine, and that was the most memorable for me because normally Vogue does not cover entrepreneurs. It does not really feature people who are in the management field side of life. So it's more like for the glam world, for the actors, and for all that. So when we got a call from one of them, and they said we would like to do a story on you, and we're doing on a story on women in the workplace. So that was probably one of the most memorable calls that I have answered, where I was thrilled and I just ran down to Nishita saying, "यार वो हमें cover करने वाला है." And for the next, I think 2-3 minutes, she was like, "ये वो थोड़ी ना entrepreneur से cover करता है क्या यार तू भी?" So that it was hard to believe, but it ultimately happened, and that was definitely one of the most memorable for me because everything else happens entrepreneur specific. Forbes, the PMI Global 50, and even Entrepreneur India and all of these MG change makers came in for entrepreneurs only, so these were very entrepreneur specific. But to land an article in a magazine which is actually meant for the glam world, probably that was one of the most memorable things for me. And as Nishita mentioned, yes, on the work front, we actually used kidney beans and chickpeas to make our first battery. And I really can never forget that reaction that everybody at home had when they came up to say कि छोले और राजमा से बैटरी बना रहे हो बैठ के. So when we actually went through the entire process, we made the first cell, and then when we were testing it, the first time that we found a potential difference, and then we literally found that LED bulb glowing without a power connection with just that chole and rajma battery. Probably that portion is just etched in my memories, and that was the defining moment, and that is something that built our confidence to what it is today. So had that experiment not been successful, probably we would have never even launched Nexus the way it is today.
Wow. So small steps and small tokens of appreciations, they go a long way. So, being the founders of a company, it must be very difficult to maintain that balance. So, how do you maintain the work-life balance? Because you both are sisters and founders, so the office to ghar mein hi hai kind of thing. So, how do you maintain that balance? How do you put a stop to work and then how do you prioritize your things?
Sometimes it gets difficult, honestly. It really gets difficult at times when you're very stressed and there's something that has just not been very complete in the office. So you tend to get back home and keep discussing about it, and then day and night, while dinner, while food, even if you're watching TV or something, you're still discussing about it. So sometimes it does get tedious. You're continuously imbibed in your work, and then your parents come into play, and then you get a good small bashing like yeah office घर का office बना रखा है and stuff, and then you try to get back normal like ठीक है we'll talk in the office the next day. Sometimes it does happen, but I think mostly we really try that we keep things in the office, related to the office, in the office, and get back home to enjoy the home life with parents, with cousins and family. So but yeah, again, having said that, for me and Nikita, it does happen sometimes that you wake up early in the morning and just touring around the house, you check your mail on the phone, and all of a sudden you have a mail which might be too exciting to read or might be a little tiresome to understand, and immediately get into the office conversation. So that happens, and it's not like you can ever have a complete work-life balance. Not, I mean, in fact, it's not only about siblings. Even people, the co-founders who are not siblings, who are in different houses, also sometimes end up continuously discussing about what they're building, and it really happens. And in fact, even for people who are working, who are in the job space, they also have the same concern. 10 o'clock at night, you get a call from the boss, you get back to work. So it's not like everybody can maintain that balance, but yeah, we really try our best that we keep work things separate, and we keep leisure life separate at home. We do try our best, but yes, I would be very honest, we sometimes tend to mix up.
Yeah, in fact, a lot of the times it is also the other way around. we're discussing plenty of things but work in the office. So, and that happens a lot of times. Sometimes when your friends come into the office, when you just randomly stumbled upon some video on Facebook and Instagram Reels, you tend to discuss about that, and then we forget work completely. And there have been times when we've indulged into random discussions for hours in the office and completely forgotten that we're here for work. So I think that is also something that we really work on, that you keep these random discussions and chit chats for the house and just focus on what you're doing and your work in the office, which is also very difficult to do, to be very honest, because being siblings, everything around you is it's there with you all the time. So whether I'm in the office or I am at home, I know that if I have to talk about something, I'm going to go and speak to Nishata. So that urge of जब घर जाके ही बात करना है तो why not now, that comes up quite often. So it's not just difficult to keep work related discussion away from home, it's also very difficult to keep home related discussions away from work.
Yeah, that must have been that must be very difficult. So, you mentioned that getting family on board has not been that difficult. So, how did that support? How did they support you, or was it ever a problem to get them on board, get them into this, or telling them about your ideas and getting them along with you on this journey?
No, I mean it was not difficult to discuss things with them. We've been discussing with them about our entrepreneurship plans ever since we were in school. So they have been more or less prepared with the fact that that's our calling and that's where we're going to be. So it was not really difficult of telling them about our ideas. Yes, they were skeptical, very skeptical when we told them about the entire R&D and battery chemistry thing, about Nexus Power. They definitely, there was confusion, there were a lot of questions, and I completely understand why those questions came up, because definitely until then we purely didn't even have a lot of technical knowledge. So I really understand those apprehensions and questions coming in. But in terms of choosing entrepreneurship over anything else and choosing a venture, EV or battery space, I think they were very comfortable with that. So there was not much problems there, and they have been very supportive, both through resources and through the emotional strength that they brought in. So there have been times when my mom is a doctorate in life sciences. She's on a PhD in life sciences. So there have been times when we randomly sit down and discuss with her and understand a little more on the technical side for these proteins and all those structures, chemical structures and stuff. My dad is also from a science background, but both of them have been into business for the last 30 years now. So there have been times when they've given us smaller tips also on the go. When we ran those initial smaller errands with IT and digital marketing and all. So they definitely gave us a lot of inputs, and mom and dad, both of them have their own businesses. So they definitely both of them had different aspects to share. Mom spoke about vendors and payments and structures. Dad gave us a more B2B perspective. Mom gave us the B2C side. So yeah, we got a lot of tips from them because they've been in the industry. They've faced it for 30 years before we walked in. So not like there was strong apprehension about what we want plan to do. They've been supportive. At the same time, they've had questions because I understand the apprehension of jumping into technology when you don't have sound knowledge enough. Otherwise, it's been really comfortable to talk to them, tell them about the plans, discuss with them, have their inputs, and build something really solid, which comes from peer feedback and family feedback.
The family inputs and support, of course, is a major positive thing that that could help you in the long run.
It is, no doubt.
So, how as there I have be I as I read in the introduction, there are so many hobbies that you guys have. So, how do you energize yourself? How do you give time to them? How do you maintain uh, the sanity in some way?
Sometimes we tend to do it, sometimes we tend to just miss our hobbies at times. So I think most of the times, the music and probably photography and these little hobbies that we have is something that happens on the go. So because music, we just jam together sometimes. It's randomly sitting on the terrace and enjoying some nice music. That's how it happens. But as far as a lot of these hobbies are concerned, I think few of them, yes, we've left behind. We both of us used to love horse riding, which I don't think has happened for the last so many years now because we've not been able to find a scope to do it. But not that we really miss, being on the horse or kind of being those fearless horse riders around. But yeah, sometimes you just want to go back and scroll through your pictures and you're like, I could do this also. Why shouldn't I try it again? But other than that, yeah, Nishita is very fond of photography, so that comes to her naturally. Even during work, sometimes she goes around clicking the labs. She goes around clicking the team working on those samples and making the prototype batteries. So that I think that's how she's keeping up with her hobby. And for me personally, if there are times when I am a little stuck up in terms of work, and if I'm a little confused with my way forward, I do tend to take a break for a day or two and keep myself completely away from work for those 2 3 days and indulge into watching films or creative writing because I'm very fond of writing and I love writing a lot of stories. So at times when I feel that it's getting too monotonous for me to be in the R&D labs all the time, and I'm not able to think through different things, I'm not able to innovate, or I'm not able to try and conceptualize things in a different way, I actually take a break and I sit down to write a few stories, to watch a few films, and to gain that entire enthusiasm, and then I get back to the labs again. So what happens is this entire phase of 2 or 3 days of a break actually builds my creativity and it builds my confidence again. So and then I get back to work, and probably it really helps me think and ideate in a more firm or creative way as well. So it has been working so far. I really hope it goes on as well.
Great. Okay. So last and the most cliched question we can say that what is your message for the youth that wants to embark on such path or want to become an entrepreneur or business person?
I'll wish them success. I mean, my best wishes really. And the first challenge you overcome when you win is when you decide to start on this path. So when you've decided to begin your journey as an entrepreneur, you've already won one challenge of deciding over a job and overcoming that fear of starting something of your own. So typically, few piece of advice, or maybe you could just say tips that I would give you. What has come to me from my journey so far. First and foremost is when you start off with your journey, you make sure all of your paperwork and the structure in that is very very clear. You're very all your paperwork is up to date. You have all your documents and everything at one place. So in future, if you have to present it to somebody or you for an investor for a stakeholder anybody, if you go to present documents, you have everything ready at one place, so you don't have to waste time going back and building all your past documents and then literally even scratching your heads and sometimes even missing out on important aspects. So it's very important that from day one till as long as you continue as a part of your company, please make sure all your paperwork is in place. It's very important that all of that from the beginning is properly recorded and understood. Specifically for an R&D company like ours, recording each and every moment was more important because with every experiment we do, if we do not record and we are stuck up somewhere, so for us to improve on that, it will get very difficult because we don't know what we did in those 6 7 experiments that we did before we are doing this one. So very important that the paperwork has to be in place, and that really helps you build. Second, I would say is understanding of the numbers and finances is very important. So I come from a chartered accountancy background, so that really helps the company keep the numbers and the finances in place. But for entrepreneurs who are starting up, whether science graduates, commerce graduates, whatever, I think finances and numbers are very important. So you got to understand very basic about finances, but that is required. I mean, so the and thirdly, I would say. When you look at building a company and you're building an empire, it is not important that you start huge, like hire 35 40 employees together and leave the entire thing to them. So it's very important that your belongingness remains and you start small. So to build upon an idea and to grow big, it has to start from somewhere. You cannot start big. It has to start small, go inch by inch, and then reach that bigger picture. If I have to give you an example about Paytm, Paytm today has about 4,000, 5,000 employees, but it was not where it started off from. It did not start with those 1,000, 2,000 employees that it had. It has today. It started off with hardly 7, 8, maximum 10 of them. So that's the entire idea. When you start with your plan and when you begin your own venture, I think you should start small and not really jump up to hiring 35, 40 people together and letting them run it on their own. Your involvement and typically a smaller bunch, you start small, go big is what I really have learned in this in my journey. So I think these are the three very important things that I would put across to entrepreneurs. And rest, I wish all of them success, and I'm sure most of them will create an impact and create a difference and solve some problems that are lying somewhere in the globe.
Picking up from there, when she talked about starting small and having say fewer people and being more involved, I'd just say that it's also very important to have people of different specializations in the team, because having everything on one person's head, or the founders wanting to do everything at once, is a very difficult space to be in. It gets tedious, and people tend to then get bored out of their work or get too stressed and stop doing their work. So I would emphasize on the fact that it is good to have people with specializations. So somebody takes care of the HR, somebody can take care of the finance. As a founder, people can be integrating everything together. So that really works wonders in a company. Second thing that I have learned from my journey is, we should always wait for the final result to be out before we celebrate about anything. So typically, it is a scenario where celebrating too early can be dangerous for people. So you wait for the final conclusion, wait for everything to get over, and then go ahead to celebrate, or to then understand that probably something has not worked for you is a better space to be in than jumping up too early with conclusions. And probably lastly, I think we've always believed in this, and we just discussed about it a little while ago. Is first that curiosity is very important. That people have to be curious and they have to keep trying and experimenting, because unless you actually try, you will not know if it is successful or not. And what I strongly believe is people have to challenge themselves. The only way you tend to stumble upon innovative things is if you challenge your abilities and you push your limits. And there's something that I think both Nishita and I really follow, which is a ship in the harbor is safe, but that is not what it is built for. You have to go ahead and you have to sail, and you have to challenge your abilities. And I think closing up the entire discussion, I just say that we've always believed in emotional strength, and that is why we keep saying that entrepreneurship is not just about having the right team or having the enough amount of money or having a very breakthrough idea to have a company. It's so much more about the emotional strength that the founders possess, and the emotional strength that we pass on to our team. So it's important to have very linear emotional graph.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So that was Balya Singh Sisters for you. Now we are open for questions from the audience. So would anybody like to ask directly or interact or give a feedback on the session? We are open. You can always post your questions in the chat box, of course. So Dr. Hishmi has asked, what is the biggest challenge that you've faced in your journey?
I mean, it's not like you can categorize your challenges as being the biggest and the smallest and something of not no importance. Every challenge is important. Every challenge teaches you something. It definitely gives you a learning experience. So for me, I'm not very sure if there is something that I would call as the biggest challenge in my life. But we've come across smaller challenges across all through our journey from the beginning till till right now, and maybe even further ahead, we will be facing more challenges. But maybe a couple of them which I can highlight is maybe being stuck with the battery chemistry, where sometimes you expect theoretically you expect some result to come out, and when you experimenting practically, it doesn't really happen that way. So you are actually stuck in between where to go back or where to move forward. So there are smaller challenges that we have come across, and then. They definitely there have been more challenges with respect to the financial resources. When you go ahead to apply for a lot of grants or even equity investments, so there are a lot of questions that you answer to, you deal with. So every person has a different perspective. So then those are smaller challenges that you overcome, you discuss about. Then again, you build a stronger conviction every time you have a challenge that comes across. So I think this is the kind of structure that we have. So there is not really there is no really no challenge really which would be the biggest challenge or the smallest challenge. They're all challenges, and they're a part and parcel of the entire journey.
All right, thank you. So, Ms. Mr. Dipanshu is asking, how long did it take you both to find success?
That really depends on what that really depends on what we define success as. I mean, for us, it's not a particular step or a particular milestone in life which is success for us. We certainly believe that all those small achievements, those tiny improvements that we have every day, is also success in some ways. Because if, as I mentioned, if that very first experiment that we did with the chickpeas and kidney beans battery, if that wouldn't have been promising and wouldn't have been something that built our confidence, we would have probably never started Nexus Power the way it is today. So there are tiny achievements, smaller milestones, and smaller goals that we set every day, that you achieve maybe every day or every month in the work phase. So that is what we define success as. So there is probably no time duration that it took to be successful, and I would certainly believe we are still not very successful if you look at success from the revenues point of view, or from the commercialization point of view. So there are so many parameters that go behind deciding what is success for a particular person. But if I have to say from our point of view, yes, we achieve some little success, I think, every day in our research labs, in the smaller milestones that we tend to achieve, that the goals that we set for ourselves, and then we try to go bigger than that. So yeah, there's no time duration, it's probably every day.
Okay, so Mr. Sujit Kumar Mohanty has a question. How could you differentiate your startup be different from so many different type of batteries available, and how green is your battery?
You know, how we differentiate, if I go down the chemistry level, then we have the most prevalent battery chemistry is a lithium ion battery, you have lead acid batteries. And then there are a lot of other R&D companies working on aluminum air, silicon based, sodium ion based batteries, graphene based batteries, so on and so forth. So it's typically how we differentiate is more on the chemistry and the features we have in offer. So our batteries are purely biodegradable. In terms of the chemistry, it's a very different chemistry from what you see with different R&D setups and these emerging startups that they have been experimenting upon. So we what in terms of features, we have feature we can look at better energy densities, higher faster charging, higher kilometer range, a better performance. So there are a lot of things that come bundled with how we differentiate the product and our battery. So it is not something. So in terms of the product, it's a battery. But if you go down to the chemistry or the component level, there are a lot of differences in the product. And how green is our battery is actually it's more on the other person to decide upon, somebody who's using it. It is something we definitely claim that we it's a purely biodegradable battery, so it definitely is not polluting, it's not harming you. So that way, the level of and eco-friendliness is quite high. And even if you have your certifications and everything in place, even then, how green it is again a very comparative measure, which again will come into place when more in terms of quantifiable measures, it would come into place only when these greener certifications are in place for the EV manufacturers, when they have their certification. And that happens when the battery is put into their vehicle and they use it. So until then, you cannot really quantifiably claim how green it is. But in the manufacturing process and the certifications we have there, we can claim how eco-friendly it can be, because it's purely the entire process comes from the nature, gets back to the nature. So that's typically the structure. I mean, in terms of how green it is, it definitely reduces waste up to 95% and almost 100% low carbon emissions. But quantifiably, of course, again, how green it is definitely goes to more towards the vehicle manufacturer of how they actually tag it.
But I'd just like to add on to this. In fact, we do make sure that the entire manufacturing process is green and eco-friendly. So there's this zero waste concept that we follow, which is the industrial ecology concept, where our raw material is the waste of the agriculture industry, and we make sure that everything that goes into making these batteries is typically, we don't leave out anything as a waste, and we do not degrade or pollute the environment further because of the entire manufacturing process. So not just the batteries, we also emphasize on the fact that the entire manufacturing process also has to be green and eco-friendly, and we make sure that we follow this idea of ours.
Definitely. I hope that answers your question, Mr. Mohanty. So, are there any more questions from the audience or any feedback, any interaction that they would like to have with the speakers? Okay. So, Ishni sir is giving a thumbs up to us. All right. So I think if there are any questions, you can always share it with JMA and we can direct them to the speakers. So I think that brings us to the end of this session. We have overshot our time, but definitely that was worth it. So thank you so much, Nikita and Nishita. It was wonderful to have you on JMA platform. Uh, we wish you all the very best for the future to you and of course to Nexus Power. Our best wishes.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having us. We had a great time interacting about the startup and discussing about our experiences that we've had so far. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I would also like to thank Shubhra from your team for coordinating and making this session happen. So thank you to Shubhra as well. And for more upcoming events, I would like to request the audience to please follow JMA on all social media platforms. And thank you for joining in today. Have a wonderful evening. Good night.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us. It was a pleasure interacting with you and answering all the questions. And I'll convey your regards to Shubhra as well.
Thank you so much. Bye.